Hi everyone, I'm Annissa, and this is Whale FM's Project Showcase. In this show, we talk with founders and projects in the crypto art and NFT space, otherwise known as non-fungible tokens. My guest today is Tommy Kimmelman, Head of Artist Relations from Nifty Gateway. Nifty Gateway is a blockchain-based platform to access some of today's most sought-after fine art and collectibles, from artists like Beeple, Justin Rowland, Packer Murat, and Trevor Jones. Please enjoy. And just as a heads up, unfortunately, Duncan won't be able to join us today. But that being said, I'm very excited to hear from you. So hi, Tommy. Thank you so much for coming on. And to start us off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background into crypto and then the NFT or art crypto space.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I graduated from college in June of 2019. Took a few months off over the summer and then started looking for jobs towards the end of summer, and I was introduced to Duncan and Griffin through a family friend who worked at Gemini, which is the company that owns Nifty Gateway. And they introduced me to the role, explained a little bit about what NFTs were, and I was kind of confused at first because I don't come from a traditional crypto background. I mean, I had done some trading here and there and kind of understood why it was important, but I hadn't really done that full dive yet. And then I started talking to Duncan and Griffin in October of 2019. And this was pre Nifty Gateway 2.0 launch, which didn't go live until March 17th. And they kind of just explained the role to me, explained the concept of NFTs. And for the interview process, I had to dive in and learn about them and basically give a mock pitch on what NFTs were and why it would be beneficial to a brand or an artist to start making them. So I kind of did that dive to prepare for the interview, and it kind of just started clicking for me and making sense. And I knew it could be big. I didn't know how big it could be. I didn't think we were going to get to the place where we are now this quickly. So it's kind of just been a whirlwind, but really exciting throughout the process.
Right, that's very interesting because I know that Nifty Gateway kind of started as a payment gateway. So what was a moment that kind of clicked and inspired you guys to shift from a payment gateway to a tokenized art platform?
Yeah, well, I think it was more Duncan and Griffin who made that decision. They were doing some stuff for Gods Unchained and CryptoKitties, acting as a payment processor, which was cool. And people, they started gaining some respect in the community and people were using the platform a little bit, but it wasn't necessarily enough to bring mass adoption to NFTs, they thought. So they kind of made the decision to pivot to a full stack NFT marketplace. And at first we didn't really know that it was going to be just art. We were trying to put a lot of focus on collectibles in the lead up to the launch. And we actually did a somewhat collectible type project for our launch with Chris Cyborg, who is a professional MMA fighter. And then, the crypto art space kind of just started taking off and we went with it. But yeah, I think the main pivot to the full NFT marketplace was just the realization that acting as a payment processor wasn't going to be quite enough. They wanted to have the full marketplace where users can be onboarded easily, use a credit card and debit card, and just interact with the platform in a very user-friendly way.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I really want to know what excited Gemini the most to embark on a crypto art project with you guys when the industry was still in its very infancy stages.
Yeah, I mean, it was really Tyler and Cameron believing in NFT and really supporting us throughout the process. I remember my first week at Nifty Gateway, or it might have even been my first or second day, I got to meet them. And they were super friendly and welcoming. And, they've just believed in us as a platform since day one. And they've been helpful making a lot of connections for us. A lot of the artists you see on the platform in the early days were from the assistance of Cameron and Tyler. That we don't really need to rely on them anymore for business development. But, when you're trying to onboard artists to a platform that hasn't even been launched yet, it's pretty difficult. So they were instrumental in making some of those connections with us. We actually they got a lot of artists to come into the Gemini offices to meet with us and came along with us to a few studio visits with artists. Say Adams is a really big one. I think he was in like our second or third drop.
Mhm.
And we may not have been able to get him if Cameron and Tyler didn't go with us to his studio and like walk him through NFTs, and why the technology is important and why he should get on board.
Yeah, and speaking about the artists that you're onboarding, like it's no secret that you guys are doing such a great job, at onboarding brilliant artists inside and outside the space. So, as head of artist relations, I would love to know more about the process of scouting and selecting well-known artists in the mainstream space, and how do you kind of introduce them into the blockchain?
Yeah, I mean, for like at first it was really difficult.
Hmm.
Like I said, we leaned on Cameron and Tyler a fair amount to
Hmm.
start making some connections. And it was a battle. I mean, getting content.
Hmm.
We were doing a drop once every 2 weeks when we first started, and the main reason was just getting enough content, and we were still in the early stages of like taking a project from start to finish.
Hmm.
Um, and then, once we started gaining a little bit of traction, we started putting a big amount of focus on artists who were already tokenizing in the space,
Hmm.
like Twisted Vacancy, Josie Bellini, and Coldy. They were a few crypto artists who took early chances on us. And then once you actually have a platform built and like can show numbers to artists and being like, hey, like this person made, $10,000 on their drop. That's a much easier way to at least spark someone's initial interest rather than like, hey, take a chance on this platform that doesn't even exist yet. So, and then in terms of scouting, I mean, I think what was instrumental for us was finding the 3D animation community on Instagram. And that was a very long process. The first really big one that we landed was Stephen Baltai, Real Imposter, who's had several really big drops with us since. He's also on Super Rare and is a super talented artist. I think at the time he had like 70,000 followers on Instagram. He's now up to over 100. But, we tried to really zero in on that community because we figured, okay, there's a huge community of these digital artists. They can't really monetize their work, and they have a huge following. That's potential people that we could
Hmm.
bring into the space as collectors, especially with the ease of onboarding. So yeah, we really zeroed in there. Stephen Baltai took a chance on us and had a successful drop. He sold an edition of 20 at $250, which sold out instantly, and then started trading up to like over $1,000 in value. And that put a lot of eyes on us and like really built the drop hype format that you see on the platform today. I think that kind of invented it with his drop. And people were looking at us and they're like, wow, there's like 4x returns, 5x returns on $250 artworks. Like, what is this? I got to check it out. You can use a credit card and debit card. Like, I got to check it out. And that really helped us when we were zeroing in on those artists from outside the space. So, another big one that we brought in was Perry Cooper, who's got like over 50,000 Instagram followers. And with that, their friends started seeing them, selling their work and making a lot of money. Their friends in the 3D animation community. And we started getting bigger and bigger names. And, that it was a really long trail, but that eventually led us to land in Beeple, to be honest. I think if we didn't like put that amount of focus on the 3D animation community on Instagram, we may never have been able to like work our way up to him. It was a long process. Like we started scaling up the tier of artists that we were working with, and eventually we started getting to the really big names, and they started making huge money. So now the business development and onboarding of artists is a much more simple process for us. Like people will reach out to us directly rather than us needing to like grind to get people on the platform. So that's been a nice change of pace.
Yeah, no, I mean, speaking of drops, right? Like hype drops that you have right now, a lot of it is, it's a bread and butter of kind of what Nifty Gateway is. And so my question to you is, like what is the level of agency artists have in regards to designing the mechanics for a drop? For example, the number of editions and auction styles, or in other words, how closely do you work with artists in designing the next collection? Like with Pack Titles, which was insane, and the Beeple with his hair. Hopefully it's not bald by now, but I mean, it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, we have a policy where we really don't like to say no to artists. because it breeds a much more creative community and like creative works on the platform, and we absolutely love collections where the artists utilize things that haven't been done before, like the Beeple hair, for example, which it's actually a funny story. So the hair that is included in the physical packages are actually not his hair. So there's this toy from like I think it's from like the 90s or something, and it's called Beeple. And I think that is like where the inspiration for his name came from. So he ordered like 600 of these dolls, and it's just like chopping the hair off. So technically, it is a Beeple hair sample. Yeah, but we really we like to, we work closely with the artists on all of their drop mechanisms, and like they have to ask us if things can or cannot be done. Like for example, with Pox, the title collection, we didn't know exactly how that was going to go, but no one's done something like that before. And we weren't about to say no to that. We'd rather try it and have it not go well than just be like, no, we're not even gonna try that. So we try to keep a really open mind in terms of creative aspects of the collections and try to say no, the least amount as possible. And with Beeple, I mean, the amount of customization that went into structuring his collection page was insane. It took our engineering team like over a week of working nonstop every day to make it perfect, like the way that he wanted it to be. And it was completely worth it, obviously. And, it just leads us to believe in the future we may actually have an engineering team devoted to artist relations, where primarily what they work on is customizing collections.
Yeah, no, it's insane, because I was just telling people, oh no, Beeple's going to have like a bald spot by the end of this. What are you going to do? So it's amazing. And no, I didn't know, that's where the name Beeple came from, but I guess now we know. And so, with the whole platform, Nifty Gateway, when people are promoting their pieces or when they do drops, they're promoting the site just as much, or the platform just as much. So, I would kind of want to understand, which marketing strategies would you attribute a portion of Nifty Gateway's current success to?
I think the main thing for us was, in the early days, we really directed people to our mailing list.
Right.
That was kind of our goal. And whenever you sign up on Nifty Gateway with a new account, you automatically are added to the mailing list unless you uncheck the box to be added. And that's been really beneficial to us. Like, our mailing list now is pushing close to 20,000 members.
Wow.
And anytime we do a blast, they show up for the drops. So that's definitely been the most effective for us so far. And in the early days, we tried experimental stuff like Instagram lives with artists and whatnot, and that helped a little bit. But more, it's just letting the artist run with their promoting of the collection. Like, if an artist is dropping 4 artworks and they have a really big Instagram following, we just try to tell them, hey, you should post these on Instagram, get your collectors involved. And then they show up for the drop, they follow us, they get added to our mailing list, and they show up for future drops. So it kind of just turns into a cycle. But yeah, I'd say what's harbored us this long is really just building a community on our mailing list and being able to blast those people when we have a drop coming up, so they're aware of it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of, marketplaces or startups, they, it's hard to make someone love your product. It's easy, I feel like, to make someone like your product, but it's tough to make someone love it on a scale. So how do you kind of push people, from like to love? Because when someone loves your product, they share with people, so you have one customer and then they share it to 100 people. So how do you kind of build that customer base, in a sense?
Yeah, I think listening to our community has been really important for us. If there's a requested feature, we never overlook it, and we try to implement as much as we can. The big one right now that's been constantly requested for the past 2 months is stuff that we can put into place to limit botting or gaming the system in our drops. And we're listening. We don't want to sit back and do nothing. So we're building a full lottery system, basically, that's going to allow you to essentially enter a raffle and purchase from the drops in that way, rather than it being first come, first serve, just to make the system a little bit more fair. But yeah, I think we really just try to listen to our community as much as we can, and then focus a lot on content. The more big partners we bring in, the more people are going to be excited about the drops. and then working with the artist to allow them to do things that they wouldn't necessarily be allowed to do on other platforms, like whether that's open editions or like the title collection that Pock did, or anything really experimental that can't be done elsewhere. We try to welcome that with open arms.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because when you look at, the crypto art data, you can see that Nifty Gateway accounts for a large percentage of the total crypto art value, or the artworks being sold. And so, the user experience is very important. and I kind of want to just, understand, how do you address your user expectations of quality and trust when tapping into a huge global market, such as prioritizing trade-offs and spending time with customers? Sometimes, the engineering team and the sales team, it's balancing that out and making sure that, the client, what the clients want are getting met, but then like realistically, what can be actually done?
Yeah.
So it's more
I
a
think,
question about.
I think we really just try to be as accommodating as possible for like any bugs or poor user experiences that arise.
Right.
And the main reason for that is just because we are such an early stage startup. So the goal right now, like, the revenue flowing into the system is great, but like the goal right now and for the next few years isn't to be profitable necessarily. It's to like grow and bring in as many users as we can and like have the best possible user experience until we can build like a bug proof system, or as close to one as you can possibly get. Like a good example is the recent Justin Roiland collection. We were unable to implement a feature on the redemption pieces that marked them as redeemed or not. So, a lot of people were kind of getting screwed over and like purchasing pieces that had already been redeemed. So, we gave a few back to the community of users who were unable to see that the pieces had been redeemed, so they weren't able to redeem one. And that was kind of our fault. It was like a front end error. So yeah, and we lost some money doing that, but it made the customers happy and like they were kind of in the right anyways. So
I see. Yeah, no. And so, in your opinion, what is the NFT roadmap to mass adoption? And what are the criterias mainstream institutions are looking at before considering investing in crypto art? Because a lot of the times now we see, a lot of customers or a lot of mainstream people who never knew about NFTs are starting to pour in. And so what do you think it will take for institutions to actually take a liking to investing into these NFTs or diversifying their portfolio into NFTs?
yeah, I mean, at least for Nifty Gateway, like this is essentially the reason why we try to make our onboarding process so easy. Like we have a ton of users on the site who don't really even understand how crypto or how the blockchain works, but they love artwork and they are able to use a credit and debit card and just buy. And once they make that initial purchase, they start to dig in a little bit more. So I think just like making onboarding really simple leads to more people coming into the space and like actually learning about the tech once they've gotten their feet wet. And yeah, I think we will start to see a lot more big names from outside the space get involved. Like we've seen, Sotheby's and Christie's start getting their feet wet a little bit in crypto art. I know Christie's did that big auction with async, and that exposed a lot of big art collectors from outside the space. So in the future, I could see more of these fine art establishments like, they can't ignore the money that's being made, especially as we progress and we start having more $1 million drops or other platforms start having $1 million auctions. Like you can't really ignore the money that's going to be flowing in over the next couple of years. So what I envision is a lot more fine art establishments getting involved, and thus a lot more fine art collectors who have a lot of money to spend on artwork getting involved.
I see. Well, like noting the exponential growth of NFT artists and digital artists in the crypto space, how is your platform preparing yourselves to the new wave of artists, and how can new artists become more aware and use the tools that you provide?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just tried to make the process as easy as possible for our artist onboarding. Like basically, since like we do mint all of the tokens on our artist's behalf, like their names and the title of the collection and everything gets stored in the metadata and on the smart contract. But like you can be an artist completely outside of the space with no knowledge of crypto or how to tokenize artworks and, participate in a drop on Nifty Gateway. All you have to do is send us the works and explain like what you want the title of the pieces to be, what we price them at, which we work closely with our artists on. And like a bio and all the details that you see on the collection page. So it is kind of a manual process on our part. And we've since expanded our artist relations team to combat that. Like, the last few months, it was just me. And then recently we brought on 2 more NFT producers, as the title is called, who are on the artist relations team working closely to collect all the information from the artists. So, and that's a very intentional decision on our part. Like we try to make it extremely user friendly for the artist and like non-tech oriented to get them onboarded. So at least that's kind of our path to bringing in new big partners from outside the space. We don't want them to like have to interact with the tech or like learn anything, because that would be a barrier to entry.
Yeah, especially, I feel like a lot of mainstream artists, they hear the word blockchain or they hear the word NFTs, and it's still this, there's still the stigma behind it. And they get scared because they're like, oh, do I give full ownership off to, these people? And do I don't get to keep my own art? And so, there's always this, you're right, it's this tough area on adding new artists into the space. So, in terms of creating like a sustainable marketplace or, a mature online marketplace, how would you kind of go in that sense, as in, or how would you, like with product maintenance and feature iteration, how would you kind of create sustainability in that sense, or scaling the marketplace?
Yeah, I think it always is going to come back to content there. Because every time we release a collection with a big creator who has a large following, we bring in new customers. Like, I mean, the Beeple one was just insane. I think we basically doubled our user base and our mailing list in the course of like a month. And that was all attributed to him. And we figure, what happens if we bring in someone like Kygo or like a really big musician or, like a huge artist like Shepard Fairey or something like that. It would be huge, and those people have collector bases and devoted fan bases who would look at this tech and at least be willing to give it a shot based on the fact that it's being marketed and like actively contributed in by, that artist that they love so much. And that paired with a really simple user onboarding experience is kind of what we view as our long-term growth mechanic. It's going to take us a long way once we start having drops with really big artists and people with big followings, and working closely with those artists to make sure they're marketing it effectively and at least on the surface explaining why the tech is like useful and interesting, so that people don't just like brush it off and not pay attention to it.
Right. And seeing like drops when you talk about artists or celebrities outside the space. I know that you did a drop with Lil Yachty, the rapper, and I'm seeing like, artists like Soulja Boy wanting to come into this space, or Lil Michaela. It's insane seeing how many celebrities and artists are interested in this space. How do you think that's going to change the dynamic of kind of the marketplace at the moment, especially for new artists or new and upcoming artists trying to become king made in this space?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough, at least for us, because we only release work through the drop mechanism. And with that, like, we need to schedule out each collection and its manual work to take it from start to finish. So it is pretty difficult to accommodate a lot of smaller artists, unfortunately. We've been working to, make more room in the schedule for them, whether that's, more drops per week or more artists per drop. We are starting to move in that direction. And I think, onboarding new hires is going to help a lot with that, so that we can support a higher amount of artists and not be overwhelmed with the amount of content flowing into the system. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of other NFT platforms too, which are a great place to start and like really start developing a collector base. There's been a lot of success stories from artists who, weren't really well known when Nifty Gateway launched and started like being a very exclusive platform, who now have progressed over the last year, and we have drops coming up with them. So it's possible for anyone. And I would say to like artists who are on the rise, like, don't be discouraged if you can't get onto Nifty Gateway today, because there's always a future. And like, if you keep working hard and expanding your following and collector base, it could totally happen.
So speaking about, the onboarding process for new artists and or like the quote unquote gatekeeping for like the different platforms, what is some advice that you would give, new artists wanting to come on, and alternatively, what some advice you would like recommend them not to take, if they wanted to kind of quote unquote make it in this space?
Yeah, I would say the main thing is, first start tokenizing your work, but be very careful about the amount you're putting out, at least in the beginning. If you go on a site like Rarible and are minting hundreds of tokens that go unsold, that's not really a great way to start, because then anyone can get their hands on your work, no problem. It's extremely easy to do. I would suggest at first keeping it really limited and scarce until you have like a collector base and a following to justify expanding the amount of artworks that you're putting out. And it can be tough to get on some of the curated platforms, but the way to do it, one, is just honing your craft, first of all, like really focusing in on your artwork and trying to create stuff that no one has created before or that's really unique. And that's going to lead you to start getting more attention, like whether it's from the platforms themselves or just starting to build a following. I think that's key. And then I would also say, I guess just interacting with a lot of other people in the community, primarily on Twitter. That's kind of where the community is at right now, where people most interact with each other. So the starter advice I always give to people is like, pick 25 collectors in the space, pick 25 artists in the space, and pick 25 employees affiliated with NFT platforms in the space, and just follow all of them, and start interacting with them on Twitter, whether it's just like, tweeting at them when they put something out, or like asking them questions, or even DMing them. That can be really effective at just becoming recognized and like having people know that you exist. So I think that's really important. And what not to do, I guess, not flooding the market with your work. Making sure that you promote yourself is key too. Like if you release a one-of-a-kind artwork on like Super Rare or something, create like a Twitter thread about it and explain why you created the work and what it means to you, and like all the motivations and inspirations that went into that piece. Because people, especially collectors, love having a work with a story behind it. If you just put out an artwork and you're like, oh, here's this artwork, that's cool, and like it might get bought, but it's not quite as meaningful, and you don't build like a lasting impression on a collector unless you explain to them why you created it and like the inspirations behind it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of want to like, just as a personal question, like how do you kind of tell that you're standing in front of a great piece of work, if that makes sense, or a piece that is going to thrive in the space or so on? I understand that it depends from person to person, and you need that personal connection. But are there some common patterns that you see in pieces of work that typically thrive the best in this environment, especially this environment of uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, for me, at least what I look for in an artwork is something that either I haven't seen before or just don't see much of. And it kind of, that's mainly what like inspires me to go, wow, like this is really cool. A great example of an artist who does that for me is Giant Swan, who I'm sure a lot of people in the space are familiar with his work. He creates everything in VR, and it just creates this really unique type of work that I haven't really seen very much of outside of him. I mean, there's a few other people doing it, but I think he's kind of leading the pack. And you guys will definitely see that tomorrow with his collection that he's doing in collaboration with Monster Cat. He basically created these 4 really extremely detailed worlds in virtual reality, and did like a walkthrough of the worlds and like showed all of their intricate details. And on Monster Cat's end, they tied in audio to like match the animations. So yeah, I think he's doing really great stuff, and he's a great example of someone who, when I look at his work, I'm like, wow, like this is super unique. There's very, very few people in the world who are doing this, and even less at the success and expertise that he is.
Right. How much do you think, especially with like the rise of like, digital and technology and art, how important do you think is the technical aspect when it comes to creating art? Because I know that, it's kind of like a race. I feel like it's like, oh, who has the newest, technology in their work? Like how do they implement it? With the VR and the AR going on, it's especially even with, the most recent like artifact drops with the shoes. It's like they use like these augmented reality like tricks to kind of like make people actually try the shoes on in real life, with the filters. And so, to which aspect do you think it's more important? Do you think, for example, with ferocious work, it's a lot of it is mainly just hand painted, and so which one do you think, especially in this environment, would work better, in your opinion?
I mean, it depends. I don't think there's necessarily a need to like go latch on to the most advanced technology that can be used to create art. I think it's really what works for you. And yeah, Ferocious is a great example of that. Like he draws all of his stuff on an iPad. That's just a tremendous example of someone who has something that works for them and doesn't feel the need to like expand beyond that. Although he has done a little bit of VR stuff, it's mainly just like, here's my iPad, here's what I want to draw, and there you go. That being said, there are a ton of emerging technologies that are creating some really awesome stuff in the NFT space. Like, yeah, AR is one of them. Another one that's not really talked about as much, just because there aren't as many artists who are able to utilize it, is AI. A really great example of an artist utilizing that is Rafiq Anadal, who's actually from outside the crypto art space. We were lucky enough to bring him in a few months ago, and he just had another follow-up drop with us recently. But yeah, all of his stuff is created using artificial intelligence, and it's insane. You guys should definitely check out his work if you haven't already. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever seen. And yeah, I really do hope to see more artists utilizing AI in their artwork, because I mean, you can create some really, really advanced stuff. And there just aren't that many artists in the space using it right now.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing, Rafiq's like work. I remember checking it a few days ago, and it's absolutely insane. And seeing especially young talent, like when we mentioned Ferocious, and there's a bunch of young talent and artists who are like 17 or 19, and just using AI in their work, which is just absolutely insane. And their pieces are going for like 100 ETH, and I just go, wow, this is crazy. So do you think in the future there's going to be a place for kind of younger artists, or just teenage artists like coming to this space, because there's a lot of young talent right now? Do you think that Nifty Gateway is going to create, I guess, some kind of platform, some kind of like vacuum for these like young talent to develop their skills?
Yeah, I mean, we actually kind of already have a program somewhat in place for this. Basically, each new artist that comes on to Nifty Gateway, they're given, like I explained a little bit about the NFT producer role earlier, they're given a producer to not just take their upcoming collection from start to finish, but also manage their entire career going forward. So for example, like, if say Ferocious was to release his first ever collection on Nifty Gateway, he would be given a producer to manage that collection and then say, okay, like, let's get your next one scheduled. Any ideas that you have, like, run it by me. Like, I'm here for, to make sure you get paid out, to give you any advice on the space, and to help you blossom your career as an artist. So it's a very hands-on process. And I think the artists appreciate that. Like with a lot of other platforms, it's kind of like you're in charge of marketing yourself and you're in charge of managing your own career. Whereas on Nifty Gateway, like you're literally given an employee that's devoted to you as an artist and like helping you with your career and like providing you with all the advice and stuff that you need to succeed.
Yeah, because I remember listening to another podcast, on Nifty Gateway, and it's crazy because seeing how when artists come onto the space, it's not only just do a drop and then you're done. It's like you guys follow up with the artists and you guys kind of like help their careers in a way, like in the long term or midterm scale, to kind of help them get their name out there and so on. So would that be the process of getting that done, in a sense, like maintain that artist relation?
Yeah, exactly. Like we try to have it not be like a one and done type thing, but more of like an ongoing relationship. And I think that's why, we do get a lot of positive feedback from artists within the community. We try to really expand our artist relations team so that we can help each individual artist structure their collection and like have all the resources necessary for success, not just on Nifty Gateway, but in the space too. Like if if we have an artist that has a really successful drop on Nifty Gateway and then they go on to super rare and like they see a price bump because of that, that's fantastic, and we absolutely love that. And all of these things blend together to really push the space forward.
No, that's amazing. And so, in terms of artists, what are some artists that you would love to see kind of come on the platform, or mainstream artists that hasn't yet?
I mean, for me, Cause, I would absolutely love bringing him on the platform. And it's funny, actually, we talked to him way back when, in like January, pre-launch, like January of last year. And yeah, we hadn't even launched the platform yet. And Tyler was able to get us a meeting, and he came into the Gemini offices and we explained the platform to him, and he just wasn't really on board with the idea of NFTs. It kind of feels like a lost opportunity to a degree, but yeah, I would love to see him in the space, and like hopefully as we push things forward, he'll eventually move in. Another one is Daniel Arsham, who oddly enough we also met back in around January, February as well. He was more into the aspect of linking an NFT with a physical item more than just selling an NFT. Another one is Shepard Fairey. I think he would be really cool to get in. Invader would be another really cool one. Yeah, just a lot of artists from the street art community would be really cool. And like there's actually some that we're talking to. And you guys will see there's a huge one. I can't like give any details, but we have a huge street artist coming in March that I'm super excited about. And then some preliminary discussions with a lot of other big artists from that community. So definitely have some big things planned, and I think they're all going to make a splash.
Yeah, I mean, even seeing the most recent Justin Rowland drop, I think we were all shocked. I don't think anyone saw it coming. It was absolutely insane. But yes, I mean, like I know that with a lot of drops now, you guys have this open editions, and they weren't seen before. And so I would kind of want to ask, how did you come up with these features and introducing the drops, introducing the pack system, introducing the open editions, and what kind of other features do you plan to implement on the site?
Yeah, so most of the features on the site that have been introduced are actually stemming from artists who wanted to like do a cool drop idea. It was actually Pac who introduced the idea of an open edition to Nifty Gateway, and like we are forever grateful for that because it's been such a strong release mechanism. But he had a drop, his first one on Nifty Gateway, titled X. And this was back in, I believe, May or maybe June or something like that. It was way back when. And his collection featured open editions priced at $1,618 each. And there was like maybe 14 artworks in the collection or something like that. And that was really cool. And it basically created, an artwork that's not limited by quantity, but limited by time. And we thought that was really intriguing and like such a cool idea. And we didn't actually utilize it very much after that POC drop because it was all custom work to get it on board for him. And then after that, we were like, that worked really well. And that was really cool. So like, let's actually fully implement this into our system. With the pack drops, that was actually Duncan and Griffin who came up with that idea. And that's been around since pre-launch. We didn't have our first pack collection until like the fourth drop. But that's been around since the beginning. But yeah, like more often than not, it really is the artist coming up with it. A good example of an upcoming feature that we have is going to be unveiled today, actually, and utilized for the Monster Cat pack drop that we have tomorrow. Is basically a verified user feature where on your account, you'll need to link a phone number that can't be like a Google Voice phone number or anything like that. It has to be a legitimate phone number. And like verify your account using it. And that same phone number can only be associated with one account. So basically what this is going to prevent is users being able to verify several accounts and purchase multiple artworks from a drop. So the Monster Cat drop is going to be, or the pack portion of it at least, there's going to be 500 packs. They're only going to be 50 cents each. So we're basically like giving away NFTs. and you have to be a verified user in order to purchase from that drop, which is going to be really cool. And it's just going to minimize the amount of people gaming the system and like getting 10 NFTs from a drop. But yeah, you guys should definitely check that one out tomorrow. We're literally giving away Giant Swan or not Giant Swan, sorry, just Monster Cat NFTs. Giant Swan is also part of the drop, but his are like open editions at $350 and $450.
This is insane. No, definitely check that out. I think I'm gonna participate as well. I feel like being on Nifty Gateway, it's very addicting. It's very addictive because there's drops almost every single day, and it's just like it's just seeing like, oh wow, like which day there's which artist, and it's definitely very exciting. It's one of the most exciting NFT user experience kind of in this space so far. And so the kind of drop system and the features that you're implementing, I know that you guys tried like the $1 with pack beforehand, and then it was a success, and then moved on to doing the $1 a drop with B. Did you expect to kind of that turnout with the pieces, with pricing and things like that? I think one of the pieces I think are currently going, the floor I think is 15K, I think right now. Did you kind of expect that that increase or in the secondary market?
No, we definitely did not expect that. And I know people didn't either. I remember, so we had the initial drop. The first Beeple drop that was back in October, we had around 2,000 users on the site. The $1 drop obviously sold out instantly. There was like 2,000 people trying to get 100 of them. And, we were expecting them to trade up to a couple $100 maybe. Obviously we knew it was going to trade up. We did not know that it was going to start selling for thousands. And, we saw the edition number 1, I believe, or edition number 2 out of 100 sell for like $6,500. And we thought that was insane at the time. And now the floor is like above 10,000. So it's been really cool to see. And hats off to Beeple for the way that he's been able to grow his brand in the NFT space and like quickly emerge as the blue chip artist. And to a degree, the edition of 100 at $1 was part of that. It was like giving his work away to people and then showing how much it was going to trade up in value and just how coveted it would be. And he did that same thing in his second drop, and those pieces are trading up a ton too. So yeah, and that's another drop format that was introduced by an artist. It was completely his idea to do that $1 drop. And since we've done it a few times, we did one with Slime Sunday, we've done one with Mad Dog Jones, and now we're going to be doing one with Monster Cat.
No, that's amazing, and especially, with these $1 drops, it helps, a lot of people who want to own these pieces, but then because maybe the floor was too high and now like anyone can kind of own a piece. And I think this was kind of never really introduced before in any other platform. And so it was just insane, seeing that being actually utilized and the turnout being so amazing. Did you kind of, with the flippening that's happening in the secondary market, I know that, the platform is kind of trying to like stop that from happening or reduce that from happening. And so, I was hearing that, there might be some mechanisms of kind of, limiting or after you buy a piece, you limit or you have a time period, a lock period of a piece that you have to hold it for a certain amount of time before selling it. Is that still in action or how is that process going?
Yeah, so that feature actually exists. We've done it for POC and for Gmonk. It's kind of available. We're not going to be doing it too often. It's kind of just there so that if an artist wants to impose a hold on the secondary market trading, they can. So I don't think we're going to be doing it too much. Lately, we've been doing a lot of open editions and a lot of silent auctions, which kind of prevent for that anyways. But, sometimes we'll see people buy a ton of open editions and then they trade up in value anyways, which is great. Like, we're not against, artworks trading up in value. What we don't like is where someone buys an artwork from a drop for like $500, lists it at like $1,500, and then each subsequent 5 minutes list it for $100 lower until they're losing money off of it. It's like, it's frustrating for us to see a really talented artist with a promising career ahead of them have their artwork purchased and then someone like selling it for a loss of money because they don't value the artwork. They are only in it to like make a quick profit. That's kind of frustrating to us. But at the same time, like we understand that, we don't really necessarily have the right to dictate what people do with their artworks. Like we provide the platform and the ability to purchase, but maybe we shouldn't be, preventing people from doing certain things with the artworks.
Yeah, and with flippers, it's tough because you kind of need that. You need them in the ecosystem, but at the same time, it's it's a dilemma. So it's interesting to have Nifty Gateway's take on this. So you mentioned about the silent auctions. Who came up with that idea, and what is the purpose of that, or what was the outcome or effect?
So the silent auction, that was Duncan's idea. The real reason that he came up with that was mainly like an anti-botting mechanism where, it's not first come, first serve. It's like who's willing to pay the highest. And like, of course, someone who botting or like just planning to flip the artwork, they're not going to be interested in that. They're going to be interested in buying the one that's a lot cheaper that they know is going to trade up in value. Whereas a silent auction, like if you do an addition, like for example, the edition of 5 that we did with Mad Dog Jones and Dead Mouse, we did a silent auction for that, and like one sold for like $12,000, and like that essentially guarantees that those 5 pieces are going to end up in the right hands, people who value the artworks, who are willing to pay a lot for them, and who aren't just going to quickly sell them the next day. So that's been a really useful mechanism for us. We recently, actually yesterday, just deployed a change that would allow us to automatically collect all the payments from silent auctions. Before it was manual, like we would have to go on Stripe and charge someone for each silent auction bid, and that just wasn't scalable. So now we have the ability to just click like 2 buttons and it closes the silent auction. So you'll probably see more of those, although we don't want to completely take away the limited quantity artworks from the drops, because we do know that people reselling artworks is healthy for the ecosystem. And there are a lot of people who can't necessarily afford the silent auctions. So I think it's going to be a mix that we'll find.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with the silent auctions, it was definitely insane. Seeing that mechanism being dropped. So speaking of like artists that's going to be introduced, is there any chance that you could give us some hints of artists other than the the street artists that you're featuring in the near future?
One that it's actually like funny that you asked me this just now. 2 minutes ago, I got an email that I'm cleared to announce this, so I guess I'll announce it here first. On February 9th, we're going to be releasing a follow-up collection with Kenny Scharf, who, I don't know if you guys remember, but he had an amazing drop with us, like back in our 4th or 5th ever drop, where the artworks initially sold for an edition of 50 at $200, and they're like started reselling for over $1,000, and now like it's pretty damn near impossible to get your hands on one of them. So he's going to be coming back. Collection's going to feature an auction piece, a silent auction piece, and an open edition. We're super excited about that. Let's see. Matt Gondek, he's going to be coming back at the end of February, which we're super stoked about. You guys will see another Dead Mouse collab in March. So that's going to be pretty awesome as well.
Amazing. Wow. So I guess we're hearing it first. This is insane. Definitely check that out. That sounds extremely exciting. And so, just so that we get, all the audience questions in, I'm going to be also getting some questions from the floor. So are there any plans to launch a Nifty token for your platform?
No, not at the moment. It's not on the roadmap.
Got it. Can you talk about the choices Nifty Gateway made in handling minting and transactions differently from other platforms?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Can you talk about the choices Nifty Gateway made in handling minting and transactions differently from other platforms?
Gotcha. I think so. The main reason we built out the system in which you see today, which is basically a centralized NFT exchange, just like the way that Coinbase or Gemini functions for cryptocurrency. Right. A big reason for that is just it's extremely easy to trade and purchase NFTs on the platform. So we pre-mint all of our tokens, and they're stored in a Gemini custodied wallet. And then at the time of drop, like when we sell the artworks, it doesn't need to be minted to go from the drop to your account. It's already been minted. So the artworks will show up in your account instantaneously. And then subsequent trading on the secondary marketplace, you don't need to pay any gas fees for that, since it's all centralized and the artworks are stored in a Gemini custodied wallet. You can purchase an artwork on the secondary marketplace. You won't need to pay any gas, and instantaneously it'll show up in your account. So again, like all of the decisions that we really made in terms of the functionality and structure of the platform all come back to like having it be user friendly and just really easy to use, especially for users outside the space. Because like trying to convince someone that in order to sell an artwork they have to pay a gas fee or something like that, it's not easy.
No, definitely 100%. I mean, I feel like this is just much more of an accessible way, and especially like you said, on-ramping a new audience. It's just much easier that way. But yeah, and it's, especially like, as it stands, if you're not based in the US, there's a tiny bit of latency when purchasing a piece. So are there any plans in the future to create a more accessible drop system for the users?
Totally. Yeah, so that kind of brings me back to what I mentioned before with the lottery system that we're working on. If we release a piece via lottery, it's not first come, first serve, and like you don't have a better chance at receiving the artwork based on like clicking the fastest. It's more like completely random. So it could go to someone in the US, it could go to someone on the other side of the world, and there's no advantage to either side. And that's going to be paired with the verified feature as well, because like we want to minimize people being able to enter the lottery 50 times on 50 different accounts. So, it'll have to be a verified account participating in the lottery. So, and then another thing is we're really working on more cash out options for international users. Like right now, if you're an international user, the only way to cash out is through Gemini, which is not available in every country in the world. So, we've been trying to talk to PayPal and other platforms that would allow us to, cash out international users more effectively. And those are definitely on the roadmap. I don't think you'll see either the lottery system or more international cash out options coming in like the next month, but they certainly are in the works.
I think we're all very excited for that. I think it's insane, especially with the phone number system and also the lottery system. I think a lot of people are going to be excited for that. And so, it's amazing. And I think we all can't wait. And so noting the exponential growth of NFT, how will like the NFTs in the crypto space, how will Nifty Gateway try to move outside the boundaries of the crypto ecosystem and increase a customer base from traditional art enthusiasts and dealers?
Yeah, I think we're really uniquely positioned for this just because of like the ease of using the platform if you're not crypto native. So yeah, like I said before, I mean, the main thing that we're trying to do is just bring in as many big artists and creators from outside the space who have a big following, and explain the platform to their audience, like explain what an NFT is and explain why they should be purchasing these artworks. If they do that and then they come to Nifty Gateway where it's extremely easy and user friendly to use, they're much more likely to purchase from the draw, have a good experience, and then stay.
Right. Are there some artists, mainstream artists, that have actually said, no, I'm still very, this idea is so very obscure. I'm not sure. It might be a niche market. I don't know if I want to get into this. Has any artists, even with this big wave of NFTs coming in, are there some artists still, turning these opportunities down, so to speak, because of hearing about the space?
Not as much lately. And the reason being, like, we haven't been actively doing that many direct reach outs. We've kind of just had really cool people referred directly to us. So like, obviously those people are already interested if they're like getting referred to us or like actively reaching out to us. In the early days, it was us doing the reaching out. And like maybe we do want to expand our reach a little bit more. And then we might run into that problem. But the numbers really don't lie. Like when we tell people, I'm not going to drop the name on this one, but we have a really, really big musician coming in who's like absolute A tier artist. And, we basically just said, hey, Beeple made $3.5 million. And they're like, all right, like, where do I sign up? That's been really, really helpful for us.
Yeah, and speaking of museums, what are your thoughts on audio NFTs and introducing audio NFTs to Nifty Gateway?
Yeah, I think they're huge, and there is so much growth potential there. Like a great example is Blau, the DJ. I'm sure many of you know. He just released a drop with us a few days ago, and that included the first full-length tokenized song ever featured on Nifty Gateway. So that was, in my opinion, I think we're really going to look back at that Blau drop and be like, that was a turning point for the music industry getting into the NFT space. Because I'll tell you, I've had several really, really big names reach out to me on the Monday after the Blau drop, which leads me to believe they saw it, they took the weekend to think about it, and then come Monday, they reached out to me. So I think we're going to start seeing a lot more full-length songs and unreleased sounds. I guarantee we're going to start seeing that within the next 2-3 months. So we have a lot of really big things planned in the music space. And it reminds me a lot of when we were first getting our feet wet in the 3D animation community. We had some really successful collections. And with that, a huge new flurry of big artists started coming in. So I think we're like on the forefront of that with music. And you guys are going to see some big names coming in soon.
Yeah, I mean, with audio NFTs, a lot of times I see kind of the EDM, the digital music. Do you think there's going to be like a different wave, like for example, jazz or more classical music turn into audio NFTs? Because like classical music and things like that, it's also a huge market in the space at the moment.
Yeah, I think they're going to be slower to get it, and this is what I've heard from several people in the music community, like people who work at labels or like music managers and stuff like that. They basically said EDM is going to get it the quickest. They're very tech focused, which makes sense. They have like a younger audience, I guess. So, I think they're going to be the quickest to get it, but we're going to have some big collections come out and people are going to make a lot of money, and it's going to put a lot of eyes on the NFT space. So I think it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it comes to musicians from other genres getting involved. I can tell you there's a few big people from the hip hop community that we've been talking to. Those are more long-term because, as expected, they're a little bit more skeptical, but I think we'll be able to make some of those happen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, seeing celebrities actually, coming onto the platforms and then minting some kind of token, especially, with genies. And I think even Paris Hilton did an NFT, early last year, which was insane. Do you think that that's going to be happening, as well in this space soon, especially on Nifty Gateway doing drops like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw the Paris Hilton one. Yeah. I saw Ashton Kutcher did something similar where he did a sketch and then signed his name and then burned the actual original work and just sold the NFT. And those were cool, but I don't know. It didn't really feel like it stuck very much. I know Genies in particular, they have some big things planned.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it's going to be exciting. It's exciting times. I think this is definitely a new wave again. So, we'll see. We will see. And so, what analytics are you making for artists to see what they do good or bad whenever there's a drop?
I mean, it's mainly sales, and recently this hasn't been as much of a problem since everything's been selling out. But it's mainly sales, and then how much the artworks trade up in value, especially with open edition. If you can release an open edition and sell 100 copies, and then a few days later those are trading up in value, that's wildly successful in my opinion. Because what it shows is that people could have purchased these open editions in the drop, they didn't, and then there's more hype surrounding how well the drop performed that they're willing to pay more for them. It just means that a bunch of collectors are trying to purchase multiple so they can buy up all of the, or a large percentage of your existing artworks. So trading up in value is key, especially with open editions.
Yeah, it's crazy when you mention the open editions because you definitely see them in the market now. This is a strategy. I remember they wrote an article on it about how some accounts are buying out all of the open editions, buying up all of the, all of the open editions, and then basically So when the time comes, or when the mainstream people come to this space, they're going to own the market or control the market in that sense. What are your thoughts about that strategy?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly smart, and I think we've already started to see it paying dividends. And like a good example that I like to bring up is these big brand collaborations that we've done recently. Like a good example is Mad Dog Jones. So he had a really successful first drop with us. He had his auction pieces sell. He had two auction pieces. They sold for like $3,000 each. He had two editions of 50 at $1. They sold and they were trading up to like $200. And then we announced that he was doing a collaboration with Deadmau5, and that's when people started really buying up his artworks on the secondary market. Those ones that were selling for $200 were subsequently selling for $1,500, and that $3,000 auction piece resold for $18,000. And it's just, if you're looking at becoming an investor in the crypto art space, like you should really be keeping your eyes on returns over time. Like, sure, you can purchase an artwork from Nifty Gateway for $200 and maybe sell it for like $400 or $500, that same night. But if you just believe in the artist that you're purchasing the work from and hold it for the long term, like you're going to be much more well positioned as their career starts to expand. Another great example is Fuck Render. He released a collection with us. Some of his open editions were almost like trading down in value, actually. And then, he teased like a big Nifty Gateway drop. A few big collectors started buying up the quantity, and now those same open editions that were selling for like $150 are selling for over $1,000. So if you're investing in the space, like, be patient. Don't sell the day that you buy an artwork. Like, really believe in the artist that you're purchasing from.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are trying to, diversify their portfolio by, allocating a bit into NFTs, because it's true, sometimes like when you invest into NFTs, some of their returns, you can't get them in the regular market. And so to be honest, if you choose the right people, it's a great investment. And I feel like, the drops that, Nifty Gateway is doing at the moment, it's selecting those artists for you, essentially, that they believe in and that they think will, grow in value over time. I feel like a lot of people, they collect and they want that instant gratification. So it's interesting, seeing that. What do you think about NFTs as an investment? Let's say like some people are allocating 5 to 10% of their portfolio into buying NFTs for the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's extremely smart, and we've already seen it start to pay dividends, especially on Nifty Gateway. Like, it can be pretty difficult to purchase an artwork on Nifty Gateway and then within like that point to 3 months forward, not have received an offer to resell it for a profit. And yeah, like I think we've seen some really amazing use cases, not just in crypto art, but also like with games like Axie Infinity. I've seen people who have purchased an Axie for like $5,000 and then sell it for like 50, 6 months later. And it all comes back to patience. Like, you have to have a strong hand and turn down offers, especially ones like never, ever, ever sell an NFT at a loss. Because if you just wait long enough, someone's going to come in, or like that artist's career is going to progress to a point where their artworks are worth more, or, someone's going to come in and just love the work and buy it. So I think it's an incredibly smart investment. Myself, I own like almost 50 Nifties. The Nifty Gateway team has a policy that we're at the moment not allowed to resell any of our artworks, the creative team at least. So I've kind of just been accumulating artworks that I value like very highly. I got like an offer on one of my Beeple pieces for $7,000 today, actually. And over the course of the last month and a half, I've received a ton of offers for it, and they've only just continued to increase. Same with the Mad Dog Jones piece I owned. I received a ton of offers where I could have made $50 off of it, but he's progressed as an artist. He did that Deadmau5 collaboration, and now I've received several offers that are over $1,000 for it.
Yeah, so guys, just hold on to your NFTs, believe in the artist, even though it might be going down in value. Like, you never know, just believe in the artist. And so yeah, it's crazy, and I agree 100%. Do you plan to build in-game gamification features that artists can use to reward most active collectors? An example is the challenges by NBA Top Shot, where they can get special NFTs by collecting some specific moments to make a set.
Yeah, so we actually kind of do have a somewhat similar feature in our redemption mechanism, which you saw for the Justin Roiland drop. It was basically if you purchase 3 open editions from his collection, you can use that to redeem a 4th piece. So we kind of do that now. It's more rare. Like occasionally artists do it. I think that's kind of like NBA Top Shot's thing. I don't think that's ever really going to become our thing, but like you guys will see it every now and then.
No, that sounds amazing. That sounds absolutely amazing. So, another question about the new prepaid ETH feature. Will there be more options like stablecoins to have that ready to buy art with in the future?
That's a great question. Not on the roadmap at the moment, but I think it would be extremely smart to introduce a stablecoin just because like, with Ethereum, it's so volatile. Like even for us, we need to implement a system where once we have the Ethereum come in, we just sell it instantly so that we don't ever have to worry about the volatility. So I definitely think it's a great idea. There's probably just some like compliance, hoops that we have to jump through in order to get there.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. And so, again, thank you so much for coming on, Tommy. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end. I hope everyone enjoyed this talk just as much as I did. But to end this, this show, this conversation, I would love to ask you one more question. If you had to choose any NFT, just one single NFT, what would you choose? Your favorite?
The whole MF collection by Beeple sold for 770,000.
100%. Man, I think everyone, I think that speaks for everyone as well. But thank you. So again, Tommy, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you everyone for tuning in. It was an absolute pleasure. And yeah, so I hope everyone has an amazing day and stay safe, stay sane, and take care.